My beloved child, God is separating you from them, and your heart feels the tension of it even if your mind is still trying to make sense of what is happening. You may feel like things are falling apart instead of coming together, like people who once felt close now feel distant, like doors you expected to stay open are quietly closing without explanation. It can feel confusing, lonely, even painful at times. You may wonder if you made a mistake, if you said the wrong thing, if you failed in some way. But listen closely now, because this is not punishment, and it is not rejection. This is protection, this is preparation, and this is redirection guided by a wisdom far greater than what you can see in this moment. Sometimes God has to remove people from your life not because they are evil, but because they are not aligned with where He is taking you. Not everyone who walks with you in one season is meant to walk with you in the next. Some people are meant to introduce you to a chapter, not live inside the whole story. You prayed for growth, you prayed for elevation, you prayed for peace, you prayed for purpose, and God heard you. But sometimes the answer to those prayers looks like separation before it looks like blessing. You cannot carry old weights into a new season. You cannot rise higher while holding on to what anchors you to where you used to be. There are relationships God removes because they were draining your spirit instead of watering it. You may not have noticed it at first because familiarity can feel like comfort, even when it is quietly harming you. You adjusted yourself to be accepted, silenced your instincts to keep the peace, shrank your calling so others would feel comfortable. But God sees what drains you even when you have learned to tolerate it. He sees the compromises you made in silence. He sees the identity you were slowly losing to keep connections that were never meant to define you. And out of love, not anger, He begins the separation. This separation may feel sudden, but it is never random. Long before the distance appeared on the surface, the misalignment was already present in the spirit. God does not wait for chaos to explode before He acts. He moves quietly, gently shifting things, sometimes allowing misunderstandings, sometimes allowing distance, sometimes allowing circumstances to change so that attachments that no longer serve your destiny begin to loosen their grip. And when it happens, it can feel like loss because your heart still remembers what once was. But what was cannot always go where you are going. Some people are removed because they only had access to who you were, not who you are becoming. They loved the version of you that needed approval, the version that overgave, the version that stayed small. But as God elevates you, not everyone will celebrate the growth. Some will misunderstand it. Some will resist it. Some will try to remind you of who you used to be because your becoming makes them uncomfortable with who they chose to remain. God separates you so their limitations do not become your ceiling. Sometimes God separates you because the people you are attached to are connected to cycles He is breaking in your life. Cycles of fear, cycles of settling, cycles of doubt, cycles of emotional dependency, cycles of self-betrayal. You asked for freedom, and freedom often begins with uncomfortable release. You cannot step fully into healing while staying bound to the environment that wounded you. God does not always heal by adding something, sometimes He heals by removing what keeps reopening the wound. Your spirit has felt the heaviness lifting even while your heart still aches. That is because deep down, beyond logic, you recognize that something old is ending so that something new can breathe. But endings are rarely gentle on the emotions. Even when separation is necessary, it can still hurt. God never dismisses that pain. He stands with you in it. He collects every tear. He understands that what He is removing may be what you once prayed for, what you once cherished, what you once built your hopes around. And still, because He sees what you cannot yet see, He dares to lead you through the letting go. There are times when God separates you because the assignment has shifted. What once required community may now require solitude. What once required noise may now require silence. What once required agreement may now require courage to stand alone. Isolation is not always abandonment. Sometimes it is consecration. Sometimes it is the sacred space where God retrains your voice, reshapes your vision, and realigns your identity with His truth instead of the expectations placed on you by others. You may notice that conversations no longer feel the same. Interests no longer align. The laughter sounds hollow. The connection feels forced. This is not coincidence. This is discernment awakening. This is your spirit recognizing that you are outgrowing what once fit. Growth always creates tension before it creates freedom. And when you feel that tension, it is tempting to run back to what is familiar just to feel normal again. But God is calling you forward, not backward. Familiarity is not destiny. Comfort is not calling. God separates you because He is about to introduce you to people who match the next version of your life. But He cannot bring the new while the old still occupies all the emotional space. You are being made room for. You are being prepared for connections that will nourish instead of drain, challenge instead of diminish, and grow with you instead of competing against the growth. What feels like loss now is often just God clearing the table for what you asked Him to serve. You may be tempted to chase what is leaving, to fix what is breaking, to force what is fading. But not every ending needs to be rescued. Not every distance needs to be closed. Sometimes the most powerful act of faith is trusting God enough to let go without full understanding. You do not need all the answers right now. You only need enough trust to take the next step without dragging yesterday with you. God is also separating you from versions of yourself that no longer belong in your future. The people leaving are often mirrors of the mindsets you are shedding. You are not just losing connections, you are losing old identities. You are losing apologetic confidence, borrowed beliefs, survival patterns that once protected you but now restrict you. This is not who you are meant to remain. This is transformation in motion. Sometimes the separation hurts because you love deeply, and God honors that love even as He redirects it. Love is never wasted. What you gave taught you how to give. What you felt taught you your capacity to care. But love alone is not always enough to sustain alignment. Two hearts can be sincere and still be meant to walk different paths. God's wisdom is not a judgment on your love, it is a safeguard for your destiny. You are not being separated because you are unworthy. You are being separated because you are chosen for more than what you have settled into. You are being separated because your spirit is being called higher than the environment could support. You are being separated because God refuses to let you be diminished by orbiting around what cannot grow with you. There will be moments when you feel misunderstood. People may label your distance as coldness. They may interpret your boundaries as pride. They may misread your obedience as betrayal. But you do not need to be understood by everyone when you are known by God. Obedience will often cost you approval. Faithfulness will sometimes cost you familiarity. But what you gain in return is peace that does not depend on permission. The silence you are entering is not empty. It is full of instruction. It is full of recalibration. It is full of divine whispering that was once drowned out by noise. You will begin to hear yourself more clearly. You will begin to recognize what you actually want instead of what you were told to want. You will begin to feel God's presence not as an occasional comfort, but as a constant companion. You may still grieve. You may still miss. You may still look back. That does not mean you are weak. It means you are human. But you will not be stuck there. Day by day, the ache will soften. The confusion will settle. The fear will be replaced with quiet confidence. And one day, you will look back not with pain, but with understanding. You will see how every separation was a protection you did not yet have the eyes to recognize. God is separating you because your life is shifting from survival into purpose. From reaction into intention. From approval into authority. He is teaching you to stand without leaning on what once held you up. He is showing you that your strength was never dependent on who stood beside you. It was always rooted in who walks within you. There is nothing wrong with you because people are leaving. There is nothing broken about your life because things are changing. Change is not collapse. Change is construction in progress. The dust you see is not destruction, it is demolition of what can no longer support what God is building. You are not being abandoned. You are being advanced. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. You are not losing. You are being refined. God knows exactly what He is doing with your life even when your emotions are overwhelmed by what you do not understand. Trust does not require clarity. It requires surrender. And you are being taught how to surrender what you once clutched so tightly because you feared losing it. What you feared losing was not meant to define you forever. You will not always feel this uncertain. You will not always feel this exposed. This is the in-between, the holy tension between what was and what is coming. Stay here without rushing backward. Stay here without numbing the process. Stay here and let God complete what He has begun in you. What is leaving cannot harm you anymore. What is ahead cannot be delayed by what is behind. The separation is not the end of your story. It is the turning point you will one day thank God for when you realize that the life you are stepping into required the courage to walk away from the life you had outgrown. And even now, in the quiet moments when the absence feels loud, God is closer than you realize. He is not separating you from love. He is separating you for love that is deeper, purer, stronger, and aligned with who you are becoming. You may not realize it yet, but the space that feels empty right now is sacred ground. It is the pause between who you were forced to be and who you are finally allowed to become. God is not intimidated by the emptiness you feel. He is intentional about it. Because it is only in empty space that something new can be planted without competition from the old roots that once dominated your emotional soil. If everything stayed crowded, if every voice remained, if every influence lingered, you would never fully hear the quiet direction of where you are truly meant to go. God is careful with your destiny. Far more careful than you have ever been with your choices. He sees the connections that could derail you before they ever do. He sees the attachments that look harmless on the surface but carry slow poison underneath. And when he steps in to divide paths, it is never impulsive. It is never random. It is always deliberate, even when it feels sudden to you. Some separations happen because God is shielding you from harm you haven't yet encountered. You may feel rejected now, but one day you will realize you were rescued. There are conversations you were not meant to overhear, betrayals you were not meant to experience, disappointments you were not meant to carry. God quietly reroutes you before the storm reaches the place where you were standing. And at first it feels unfair. Later it feels like mercy. You are not being isolated because you lack worth. You are being isolated because your worth is increasing. Elevation always requires separation. Visibility always follows obscurity. Even seeds grow in darkness before they ever break the surface. What feels like burial is often preparation. What feels like being forgotten is often God working on you where no one else's opinion can interfere. There are prayers you whispered in moments of desperation that you may have forgotten. Prayers for clarity. Prayers for peace. Prayers for strength. Prayers to stop hurting. Prayers to stop repeating cycles. Prayers to finally be free from emotional chaos. God remembers every one of them. This separation is not contradicting those prayers. It is answering them in a way that demands courage from you instead of comfort. You are learning how to sit with yourself without distraction. How to face your thoughts without running. How to listen to your heart without drowning it out with noise. This is not easy. The silence exposes what the crowd once covered. The stillness brings unresolved feelings to the surface. And you may feel tempted to escape it, to replace what is gone with whatever is available just to fill the void. But God is teaching you patience in the gap, because what you reach for in desperation often becomes what delays you. The people who left took certain versions of you with them. The people who remain will only know the evolved version. And the people God is preparing to introduce will meet you at a level of clarity, confidence, and self-respect you did not possess before this season. You are not being stripped, you are being reconstructed. Even your pain is being refined. Before, you may have internalized disappointment as proof that something was wrong with you. Now you are learning that loss can also be direction. You are learning that endings are not always failures. Sometimes endings are confirmations that the season has served its purpose. You do not have to demonize those who left. Release does not require bitterness. Forgiveness is not denial of hurt, it is freedom from carrying it forward. You can bless what is gone without inviting it back. You can be grateful without being attached. You can honor the role without reopening the door. This is emotional maturity being formed inside you. God is also separating you from expectations that were placed on you long before you understood your own calling. Expectations to be the strong one, the fixer, the peacemaker, the one who always adjusts. You are being relieved of assignments that were never yours to carry. And without those false responsibilities, you may feel strangely unanchored at first. But that unanchoring is what allows you to finally be planted somewhere true. You will begin to notice that your energy feels different. The exhaustion that once felt normal slowly fades. The anxiety that once lived in your chest loosens its grip. Your joy no longer has to fight for survival. Your rest no longer feels earned only through overexertion. This is not because your life suddenly becomes easy, but because your life is finally becoming aligned. You will learn that not everyone who left was supposed to stay, and not everyone who stays is supposed to stay forever. And that truth will no longer scare you. It will free you. Because permanence is not what makes something meaningful. Purpose is. God is teaching you discernment, not suspicion. Wisdom, not walls. You will be able to recognize when a connection is nourishing or depleting without feeling guilty for choosing yourself. You will no longer confuse loyalty with self-abandonment. You will no longer confuse love with endurance of harm. The loneliness you feel is temporary. The refinement it produces is permanent. What you gain from this season will stay with you long after the ache fades. You are becoming someone who does not cling out of fear, but connects out of wholeness. Someone who does not stay because of insecurity, but chooses because of clarity. One day you will realize that the separation did not shrink your world. It expanded it. It did not make you colder. It made you more grounded. It did not weaken you. It revealed how strong you had quietly become. God is not finished with you. What feels like an ending is only the pause before your next becoming. There will come a moment when you realize your heart no longer aches the way it once did. You will wake up one day and notice that you are no longer replaying old conversations in your mind, no longer wondering what you could have done differently, no longer measuring your worth by who stayed and who left. That is when you will know that the separation has completed its work inside you. Not because the memories vanished, but because they no longer control you. You will begin to feel lighter without being able to explain why. Your smile will return without effort. Your laughter will sound like your own again. You will move through your days with a quiet steadiness instead of constant emotional turbulence. And in that calm, you will finally understand that peace was never waiting for you in other people. It was always waiting for you in alignment with God's will. You will also see how much you grew without realizing it. The patience you developed. The boundaries you learned to honor. The courage you found in moments when you felt completely alone. The faith that remained even when your certainty disappeared. You did not stay the same through this season. You were reshaped. You were strengthened. You were refined. The people God removed were not meant to walk into the fullness of what He is preparing for you. Some would have held you back without even realizing it. Some would have competed with what was meant to be celebrated. Some would have benefited from your growth while secretly resenting it. God never exposes you to battles you do not have the strength to survive, and sometimes survival requires distance before damage occurs. You will look back and see how many times you almost went back out of fear. How many times you almost reached out just to feel familiar again. How many times you questioned your own discernment. And you will be grateful you did not retreat. Because what is coming into your life now will feel different. It will feel stable. It will feel mutual. It will feel clean. It will feel safe in ways you once thought were impossible. God is not just removing people. He is removing confusion. He is removing compromise. He is removing emotional chaos disguised as passion. He is removing environments that kept you in survival mode instead of allowing you to build. He is removing the need to constantly prove your worth through endurance. Your life is becoming quieter in the best way. Less performance. Less pressure. Less explaining. Less chasing. More purpose. More intention. More clarity. More rest. This is not an accident. This is alignment. And slowly, without forcing it, new connections will form. They will not arrive with drama. They will not demand that you abandon yourself to be accepted. They will not feel like constant emotional labor. They will feel easy in a way that does not threaten your growth. They will feel supportive without being suffocating. They will feel aligned without needing to be convinced. You will finally understand that God never took anything from you to hurt you. He only removed what he knew would hurt you if it stayed. What you thought you lost was actually what was limiting your expansion. What you thought you needed was actually what was preventing you from becoming whole. You were never meant to stay the same. You were never meant to remain tied to versions of life that kept you shrinking. You were meant to evolve. You were meant to rise. You were meant to walk into rooms without needing to beg for belonging. And even now, as you read this, God is still at work in ways you cannot see. Conversations are being arranged before you ever speak. Opportunities are being prepared before you ever feel ready. Paths are being cleared before you even know which direction you will choose. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be for the next unfolding. The separation was not the wound. The separation was the medicine. You are not losing people. You are gaining yourself. And the life that is opening in front of you will one day make so much sense that you will be grateful God loved you enough to close the doors you were too afraid to shut on your own.